Okay, I stopped the broadcasting of the first chapter of the Musica Universalis to discuss something that I have not discussed yet. I think it might deserve like a video of its own, but it's really important. So I decided to stop now and to upload to broadcast like a very, very short commentary, but it's an incredibly important topic that I actually have not discussed at least for several years now. So this is the issue of like, why I have just said it, I mean, for my perspective, I want to broadcast to everybody on earth, if they only can and wish to listen. And it's something that I've said like since 5 years ago. I've always said it. So what's behind it? Why do you say it? So it always was true and it's still true, but not for exactly the same reasons. And I will explain what was the initial reasoning and what's the current reasoning. First of all, I should say that, initially, I understood that I cannot speak to people because I would be placed in mental asylum. So I can only speak, first just to send things to my mail or everyone's account, and after that the YouTube channel, but still mostly just intelligence services will listen. But from my perspective, the more people will know about it, it's better, because I wanted to explain myself and explain my situation, and most of all, explain my situation as a representative of the cherubs. So everybody should listen to what they want to say, because they speak to all of humanity and all of the titans. And yes, there are kind of technical limitations, because I'm always blocked. But I do whatever I can to just repeatedly broadcast everything, using every kind of alien or human technology. So everybody that want to listen will listen. Also, initially, this was from my perspective, following the famous נבואות עבד אדוני, עבד אלוהים, מה נאהב ותקוד של בריחו, מספר ישעיהו, המפורסמות שהנוצרים כמובן רואים אותם כתייחסות לישו, the famous chapters of servant of God from Isaiah that traditionally are applied to Jesus, but can also apply to other prophets, and arguably, and according to my position, it's like a model, not a description of one person, and also not a description of Jesus per se. It fits Jesus, but it's because Jesus, Christ was, is acted, and he was behaved like according to the model, but it's not necessarily, and it's not, according to my position, a description of a specific person. So with according to that model, I try to kind of speak to nations, even though still live very simple life, much more simple than I want. I'm poor, absolutely poor. But let's not discuss it now. I should just say that with time, and specifically the last couple of months, I understood several things. First, I understood that the YouTube. The technical thing is actually not that important, because it's completely controlled by the Israelis and the Americans. What's important is, of course, the bicycle mechanism and the broadcast using the neurons. And in that, I have tremendous advantage over everybody else on Earth, even though the Israelis know it for a long time, so they know arguably how to operate it, even though in a very incredibly limited way. They don't know nothing because they are so stupid. But I have the advantage of the neurons, the spaceships and the actual robots in my body. And this is a huge advantage, as you know. And it should be said that I understand very well that I can broadcast to a specific person, or even to specific groups, but I do not do it on purpose. On purpose, I broadcast to everybody that ate the neurons. I know that I don't have to do it. It's not the way that it's done by the Israelis, and they cannot do it because they don't have enough of the robots in their body. They cannot do what I do. Certainly not now, but even like a year ago or 10 years ago, when they had much more, they still couldn't have done it. And I can't do it. They cannot do it. Like, you can broadcast maybe to one person, whoever you are, and I mean, at the same time, I can broadcast to everybody. And it probably costs you less than it costs me. Probably more than it costs me. Probably much more. And even then, I still continue with the same idea that I need to speak to everybody. And I'll tell you why. But I'll do it very shortly because I want to continue, but maybe I will elaborate on it very later. I mean, later today, we'll conduct another video on that. Very simply, I will say the following. This is a war that is going on now, but the war is not between Titans and humans, and I understand it long ago. And I've even referred to it in my very initial description of the Titanomachy. That I mean, even in the mythological Titanomachy, I mean, it wasn't completely, the lines were not completely drawn between humans and Titans, or Olympians and Titans. Because, for example, there was Prometheus that was inside of humans, the famous, Titan traitor, and there were others. I mean, there were actually it was generally between the Olympians that represented humans and Titans, but there were some that humans, for example, could several humans who actually choose both sides actually, and also there were Titan traitors so it wasn't exactly that clear cut, and today it's also not like that. It's also not like that. So what's going on today is to my interpretation, I interpret the current situation of the war that's going on Earth as, my interpretation is basically, in the most general way, and I will elaborate later, a Marxist interpretation. That's my interpretation, that's the best, that's how I choose to interpret it. You can interpret it in all sorts of ways, but for me, it's clear that the Marxist interpretation is the correct one, which means basically fighting over the means of production between those that are oppressed and those that are oppressing. או במילים פשוטות, מלחמה על כסף, בין הגנבים לבין היצרנים. Now, I know it's simplistic, but that's my view, maybe I'll elaborate on it later. And I should just say that, from my point of view, the way to help the oppressed side is almost by definition exposure of information, correct information, and this information could be exposed to everybody, because if all information was exposed to everybody, the oppressors couldn't have from the get-go done their crimes, because in such situation the oppressors always withhold information from the oppressed people. Because almost by the laws of nature, the oppressors cannot continue the oppressions if the oppressed people know how to use the powers that are by right theirs. And when I say that they are by right theirs, it means that by the natural right or by divine right theirs. They use, their own body and their own work in their fight against those that oppress them. So it's theirs by definition, but sometimes they lack information. And from that perspective, I do not mind that everybody will listen to me. Because if everybody will have complete information, according to my understanding, the oppressors could not win this war. It is impossible, almost by definition. So let's continue now with the Musica Universalis and the Game of Thrones, as I said before.